Today I want to talk about the horses in the Rider-Waite tarot deck, and we are so lucky to have had Pamela Coleman-Smith doing these paintings for us, because I think she brings most of the horses to life, and really adds an element of detail in the painting of the horses that helps us to read these cards. When I read tarot, I almost always turn each card over one at a time, because this allows me to look at the card and notice the details that are important in that moment. And that's probably the biggest piece of advice I would give anybody reading tarot, especially if you're starting out. Memorizing keywords is helpful to give you an overview of the tarot, but it's not helpful in actually doing a tarot reading. It is so important that you allow yourself to look at each card and to experience what the card is telling you. If we just start with the four knights, and I shall bring back the six of wands and death in just a moment. It would be an unusual spread, though it does happen, and it certainly happens to me, to have all four knights present in one spread. And sometimes we can overlook how different each of those horses is because they are not lined up. For the suit of swords, which is about having a clear idea and being really focused on it, the horse is clearly uncomfortable with the speed with which his knight intends to follow through with this idea. And that is a key part of the Knight of Swords, which is, that's great that you have a good idea. It's great that you are focused and dynamic and you are going for it. But have you made sure that you are not heading towards burnout? And have you turned around to make sure that your team or your family or your partner are comfortable with the speed that you want to go at? So for me, a big warning of the Knight of Swords is potential burnout, which is either in you or whoever is involved in this reading. The Knight of Wands, we have this sort of Geronimo energy, this I'm just going to go for it, this impulsiveness as the horse rears up. Is this going to work out well, or is the knight just going to be thrown off his horse and it all going to end in catastrophe? You'd have to pull more cards to see. But there is a just go for it energy in the Knight of Wands, which is less fast-paced than the Knight of Swords. It is more of a combusting, a kind of a boom energy than a we've got to go for it, we've got to go for it, we've got to go for it, which is the Knight of Swords. And it's the horses that really show this. Coming down to a complete opposite now is the Knight of Pentacles. Slow, steady, attention to detail, getting it right. You can just see it, the way this Shire horse is fully stood. All of his legs are on the floor. You know, it feels heavy. It feels solid. It feels reliable. And then possibly my favourite horse, that beautiful, show-stopping, romantic Knight Chevalier of the Knight of Cups. I can't even put it into words, just how beautiful that horse looks, It's the kind of horse, if I was walking locally and I saw we have a white horse actually locally, you'd look at that and you go, oh, that's just what you'd expect to see in a fairy tale. It's beautiful. And so we can see that Pamela Coleman-Smith can A, draw horses that feel really alive, really full of life, and B, she can draw horses that add extra meaning to the card. And I think we can also see that in death. There is perhaps a subtle suggestion that this horse is slightly similar to the Knight of Cups. We can see a similar movement, but and obviously the red eyes, that's a bit freaky, and perhaps suggesting that this is Death's horse. But there is a carrot to that. There's a pride. When I see Death's horse, I see pride. I see movement, but slow, steady, movement, very much like the river. We can see hard to see in Death. It's a complex card, but there is a river there. To me, when I look at that, I see slow, steady movement, unstoppable, not going too fast, not going too slow, slow, steady movement. So if Pamela Coleman-Smith can even make Death's horse look alive, have character and movement, then it really highlights why the Six of Wands gives me the heebie-jeebies every single time I look at it. This is not a horse. I'm utterly convinced of this, like beyond all convincing. This is not a horse. This is a mama's horse, pantomime horse. It's a puppet. Have you seen The Wicker Man? Probably get the idea. I mean, of course, the Six of Wands can mean success and victory. It can mean we've got the laurel wreath here held up aloft. We've got the laurel wreath around his head. We've got, so upright in his seat here, big leather boots. This can mean success, victory, and recognition by your peers. But we can't see any of the horse's body. If we compare it to all of the other horses, we may not be able to see their front legs or their rear legs. There may be parts of it where, because of the way that the card has been framed, we can't see all of the horse, but we can see the horse. In the Six of Wands, the cloth is completely covering the body of the horse. There is absolutely no mane. There is no eye detail. And I'm going to argue it just looks dead. When I even compared to Death's horse, the Six of Wands looks dead. I am convinced, and if this is taken from a parade or a festival or a celebration, certainly in ancient sort of English parades and such like, we would have had mama's horses, we would have had puppets, we would have perhaps had dragons with children standing underneath them moving the dragon. There is even on Facebook a picture of all my kids in one of those dragons at a medieval festival. It is a part of English culture and English heritage, the pantomime, the mummers, the puppet horse, the hobby horse. I'm convinced this is a hobby or a puppet or a mama's horse. And to me, what that means is watch out for something that looks too good to be true, because it probably is. And it also means watch out for the price of success. I used to have this card quite a lot, actually, when my children were younger and I was overworking. And the Six of Wands would come up and I used to read it as, what is the price for your success? And I cut my hours back and I spent more time with my younger children as they were then. And I'm glad I did. So I don't want to take away from the fact that very often this is a really positive card, because it often is. But there aren't many cards in tarot that are exclusively positive or negative. Most cards have a warning there. And to me, the hidden warning in the Six of Wands is this horse. And it is a reminder that success comes at a price. And sometimes we need to be really honest about ourselves about that. And it's a reminder that somebody that endlessly shouts out about their success or presents as just goddamn perfect, there's usually something hidden in the shadows. So keep an eye out for the horses. If you're doing a reading with the Rider-Waite deck and there's a horse in the image, look at it, experience it. Take the time to marvel at Pamela Coleman-Smith's paintings and allow her images to help you to understand the reading.